Hello, I'm Edgar Kramer from SoundStage Australia, and I'm here today with Ian Robertson from REDGUM Audio. G'day, Ian.
Greetings, Edgar. How are you, sir?
Well, thank you very much. Ian, I wanted to start off by asking you if you can fill us in a little bit about the Ian Robertson and REDGUM background and history.
Right, okay. Well, I got involved with audio as a kid in the 1950s, so I've sort of been doing it for quite a while. I started off really with stereo using radio. Back in that time, they had 3LO, 3AR, broadcasting separate channels. That sort of got me interested in the whole thing. I did actually come also from a musical family. My father played the guitar and mum played the piano and the banjo mandolin. So I sort of had exposure to musical things sort of very early on, and it sort of grew out of that basically. And by the time I was a teenager, I was going to Ensel on a Monday morning to buy all these Saturday morning trade-ins and rejuvenating them and getting them ready to sell on the Age on the Saturday morning the next week. So I did that a number of years, and at the same time I was actually working full-time job as with the SEC as an electrical operator. I'd done electrical engineering at Caulfield Tech at the time and moved into the SEC there. And I met somebody there called Ralph Bridges, who was very much involved with the discos of the time in Melbourne. And I did the service work on Thumping Tum, the Catcher, Sebastians and Berties, all those discos I did way back then. And so, yeah, I covered a fair bit at the beginning. And I had a retail shop in Melbourne, in the Beaumaris beachside suburb for a number of years, and one in Hawthorn right up until 1998. I had the retail shop there, sold lots of good brands. We had NAD in the very early days, had one of the first JMO dealers in Australia. We've done quite a lot of work, and that's sort of where we sort of got to. And at one stage, I had an English company come to me and want me to sell their newest amplifier. And I sort of looked at it and said to the blokes that were working with me that this is $5 worth of electronic bits and pieces in a plastic lunchbox, and they want to sell this for $1,500. I'm sure I can do better than that. And that's what started me down this path of looking at what I could do in the way of an amplifier that gave long life and a real appreciation of music from the not from being a copy of somebody else's amplifier, but being able to actually reproduce live instruments. Around about that time, I was also involved with live orchestra practice sessions and spent quite a lot of time, obviously not listening to whole pieces, but picking up bits of music and being involved in a situation where I can hear this music, but I can feel a rhythm. And I'm damned if I can hear a rhythm. What is this thing? And it turned out to be a timpani played with one of those hairy balls at a really low level.
Right.
And I was thinking about what we do in music in order to feel that normally is to crank the volume up. And when you get it loud enough, you'll have this feeling that you're there. Well, the music I was listening to was not loud, but the feeling of being there definitely was there. So it was obviously to do with the imbalance between very low frequencies and the frequencies which we normally hear. So that sort of got me started in this whole development of the REDGUM as we know it.
Sure. So from memory, that was around about 1993?
The first models of REDGUM were 1993, yes. Sure. All this was happening really in the late 80s. Yeah. So it was about a 5-year period between when I had decided that I could do something and I actually had a product in my hand.
Sure. So I was going to say, given the your path that you took in terms of pro audio and then live music, how has that shaped the REDGUM designs, the amplification voicing, if you like, or what do you aim? What philosophies have you implemented in the REDGUM amplifiers?
Yeah, it is a sort of a voicing thing. During the early first few years, from the late 80s through to 93, what I was doing is I was going back to the shop every night, and I Goldilocks all the components. I decided on a MOSFET amp way back in the late 80s because of the reliability. I'd worked on them quite a lot. And I'd also worked on transistor amplifiers. And as I said to somebody else, I'd replaced basically a bath full of transistors by that stage and realised that they're really not the way to do it if you want something that's dead reliable. So I decided on a MOSFET. I found a circuit that I liked. And then I started Goldilocksing the components. What if you do this? What if you do that? This is just right. And I did that over a period of 5 years to get where I wanted to be. And also at that time, because I was exposed to this orchestral thing, I was trying to extend the bottom end down from where people say you hear the frequencies to where you feel the frequencies.
Yeah.
And there is no bottom end on that. It's down to zero, you feel, almost. So I cut off my amplifiers at 0.8 of a hertz. So right. They do go all the way down. And the whole idea is to try and put back that feeling of being near an instrument. And one of the things I like to play is Carol Kidd, that has one of her songs has a double bass in it. And as the double bass goes down, the notes get bigger. And now that only happens on my amplifier. You play it on the standard amplifier and the bass just sort of fades away as it gets lower. But on my amplifier, it does exactly what the double bass does. And that is the lower the note, the bigger the result. And that's exactly what we can reproduce on the REDGUM.
Sure. So I guess that ties in with what I was going to ask you about some, maybe all REDGUM amplifiers that have been tested over time, which have been found to have a frequency bump or hump in the low end. So I guess that's what you're talking about. So technically, how have you done that?
Well, I can tell you and all those stories, Yeah. Look, I'll tell you that it's playing with components in the feedback line. The amp has very, very low feedback, DC and AC feedback, but with a little bit of salt and pepper in the feedback line, you can get these results. And but you can also get instability. You can also get woofers sort of flapping all over the place if the power supply's not up to it. So we also have to play with the
damping,
front end of the amplifier as well to make the thing absolutely stable.
Sure. So that brings in damping as well.
Correct.
Right.
The damping very, very high.
Okay, that's interesting, and I guess that's all you can tell me without giving away too many secrets.
That's basically it. Yes. Look, on my deathbed, I'll tell somebody.
Sure. And has the way that you've handled the low end reproduction of REDGUM amplifiers changed at all over the the evolution of the brand?
It has, in fact, yes. The first one I sort of started to document was called a 4A. And that was what my original design was in the 1993. And I had a retail shop at the time, as I said, and with that 4A unit, what would happen is people come in looking for an amplifier worth about $1,000, maybe, that's their limit. And I give them a listen to the REDGUM, and 100% of them said, I'm going to get one of those, but I don't have the money now. And that's literally what happened over a period of about 18 months, and we sold a lot of them.
Right.
Then I got talked into starting to do international shows, and we went to England and America and a few of those. And all those shows we shared with other manufacturers, and other manufacturers didn't really like what I was trying to do. So could I possibly change things? So we rapidly got through a 4B, a 4C, and eventually settled on a 4D. Right. And the 4D model has basically been made ever since.
Right.
Having said that, I decided that the speakers I use on my computer up on the wall over there they are using a 4A circuit. They're quite small bookshelf speakers, but they've got an output stage of one of my early 175 monoblocks with the 4A circuit in it.
Right.
And I realised just reasonably recently that when I play music from YouTube on the computer, it actually sounds ballsier than when I have it on my system.
Oh.
So, right, why don't I try 4A back in the gear? So I've modified a couple of amps since then, and the feedback from the customers is just amazing. They are really happy about it. With the extended bass just lifts the thing right up. So because I'm now not having to make any other manufacturer happy, I'm convinced that going back to the 4A one will be the way to go.
Sure. So is it a 4A modernized? In other words?
Yes. A lot in that time.
Sure.
There's a lot, but the components now are much tighter tolerance. 1% components we started to use way back then cost a fortune. 1% components now are relatively cheap. So we've been doing Goldilocks on that from time to time when something new comes out that it could be worth considering. But we also bear in mind we all these international shows, people come rushing up with the magical capacitor that only costs half as much as your car, and magical resistors that if you put them in your amplifier will sell like mad. And you sort of add all this up and realise that the amplifier you're currently selling for $1,500 would suddenly rise well past $30,000 if you incorporated these products in it.
Sure.
And it might sound slightly better, but that'd be an arguable difference. And so a lot of these things you have to take with a grain of salt. But given the option, the benefit of the option, and think it through, try it, and see if it really does give you any improvement worth the money they're asking. And in most cases, it doesn't.
Sure, and I guess it's not just a matter of shoving, really expensive, high-quality products into a box and fingers crossed hoping for the best. It's also a matter of the synergy with those products within each other, within the circuit, and the talents of the designer to get the most out of them.
Yeah, they work as a group. You're absolutely right. And another story you may not really want to know, but there was a high-end shop very near me in Hawthorne that wanted to sell my product, but they wanted to have Weimer caps with a rage back then. If you remember, that would probably be late 90s. Everybody needed to have Weimer caps.
Right.
So this bloke said, look, I want your amplifier. I think it's fantastic. He rebranded it and charged 3 times as much, but he wanted me to use Weimer caps. And I said, well, you take it as it is now. If you buy a few of them and you really want Weimer caps, I'll move into Weimer caps.
Right.
And so over a period of time, for his models, as I ran out of various caps, I bought Weimer caps.
Right.
And after about a year or so, he took me aside and said, hey, these amplifiers don't sound like they used to. And I said, well, prove it. So he produced one of the very early ones, and sure enough, there was a discernible difference.
Right.
I said, the only thing I've done is I've changed all the caps that I originally chose as being the best for the process to the Weimer caps as per your request. I said, I can reverse that, and that'll save you an extra couple $100.
Right.
That's exactly what we did.
Reverse engineering at its best.
So some of these things can help, but a lot of them are just hype.
Sure. Okay, having said that, briefly, what's coming from Redgum Audio? Are you working on anything? Can we expect something new in 2021?
Yeah, we've gone through a few different things. As you probably know, we're looking now at what we call the aggregator, which is a little computer running software for high-res files, distribution of high-res files. We're also working on a little jigger behind me here. Got a badge on it already.
Bring it closer to the middle. That's it? Yeah.
That's it. Okay. That is a little tiny Bluetooth adapter.
Wow.
I'm halfway through the development of that. We've got a little 3D printer. We're printing our own cases. It uses, as you can see, it follows the REDGUM badge around. Sure. It takes a USB in the back, and that's it. You hook it up to your phone and play your music through your hi-fi set.
Very clever.
And that's coming up, and that'll look like I'm hoping to sell that for around $200 all up.
Wow. Okay. We look forward to seeing that. That's got quite a lot of potential in terms of opening doors to a wider audience and a wider music playing as well. Yeah.
Exactly. people who normally use their phone for musical playback, they'll be astonished at what happens when you put it through this into a decent system.
Terrific.
So, yep, that's on the way. The first 50 circuit boards have just arrived, and the 3D printer's chugging away and produces about one every 4 hours.
Fantastic. Oh, keep us posted on that. And anything as far as amplification?
Amplifiers? No, not really. I've got the magnificator, which I think you've been exposed to, the big one.
Yes.
We're doing revamps of that with better sockets and better RCAs and better speaker terminals, a few of those things. But the actual circuit boards, no, there's nothing. There's really, I haven't changed anything now other than going back to 4A for a while, and I haven't found any components that make a noticeable improvement at a reasonable price either. So no, it'll be onward and upward.
Okay, when you're on to a good thing, stick to it.
That's the one.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ian, for talking to me today. And I look forward to hearing more about the upcoming products. And thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Edgar.